Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues, I feel very humbled by being provided with this opportunity to address you this afternoon. The National Tooling Initiative, if we could just move on. Oh, sorry, I've got the button here. Simply put, is a private and public partnership between government and the tooling industry. Government is represented at a national level by the Department of Trade and Industries, and at a provincial level by the various departments of economic development and tourism, and by industry by the Tooling Association of South Africa. But its aim is the total rehabilitation of the industry for the benefit of manufacturing industry, and that's an important endpoint. So we don't get confused this afternoon, I'd just like to explain what some of the entities that make up the NTI are. Right at the top, we have the Insimbi logo, which is the brand associated with the NTI program. TASA, the tooling industry of South Africa, representing industry. And the NTIP is a wholly owned by TASA project management company, which is charged with the execution of the program. What I'd like to do this afternoon is walk you briefly through the history of the TDM section in South Africa, the distressed drivers that we've identified that created the situation, the NTI intervention projects, a brief idea of the progress to date, and the future plans that we have for the NTI. To give you a little bit of an idea of scale, the South African tooling industry is worth approximately 1.5 billion euros per annum, which represents 1% of the world, or 4.6% of the European market. That includes maintenance. Our sectorial splits are very similar to Europe, in so much as 50% is involved with the automotive industry. We have 7 OEMs operating in our country, 35% devoted to packaging and consumer goods, and the balance is for the mining, aerospace, etc. industries. But the fact is that during the last 20 years, we've had a serious loss of capacity, which is due in the main to a stagnation of technology, a loss of capacity, competitiveness, and lack of transformation. And the bottom line is, we as a country at the moment can only support approximately 20% of the requirements of our own industrial sector. So we have a rather serious situation, unless we're going to depend forever on our Chinese colleagues. Now, the distressed drivers, which we believe have created this the situation, is skills erosion and job losses, technology stagnation due to a lack of recapitalization and focused research and development, loss of capacity, loss of competitiveness, mainly because we're subjected to such vigorous marketing strategies coming from, in the main, China, India, and the EU to a certain extent. Also a lack of transformation inside our own country. We refer to this as triple BEE, or broad-based black economic empowerment. Now, that may seem a little bit alien to you, but you all know our history. So it's a reality that we have to deal with. And it's just a fact that large portions of our society have had no exposure whatsoever to technology. That doesn't mean they haven't got inherent skills, which, if properly identified, can be put to meaningful use in the development of our country, and ensuring that we've got full participation. And of course, we still have a growing trade deficit. But the intervention projects which we identified to turn these round were skills development. Now, my colleague Dirk van Dyk will be actually explaining in some detail how we have managed to develop a tooling industry specific training program which will, we believe, address our needs. Business capacity expansion, technology recapitalization, competitiveness improvement, cluster structure development. I want to spend a little bit more time later on explaining how we put together the various structures that we would ensure that we've got the right levels of participation throughout the country and specifically in the provincial regions. And of course, it's very important that where possible, we would localize international tooling companies and encourage them to come on board with us. Now, skills development, as I said, Dirk is going to go into this in some detail. So suffice it for me to say that our planning included the launch of a pre-apprenticeship program in 2010. We actually accomplished that. The introduction of a competency-based apprenticeship program for 2011, we accomplished that target. Currently, we are in we're in an advanced stage in developing the Master Artisan program, which will be launched in 2014, and we intend to launch the engineering program in 2015. By 2015, we anticipate having 3,600 students in our pipeline. As part of the technology recapitalization, we've encouraged, in fact it's now happened, the establishment of 3 institutes of advanced tooling at 3 of our universities, one in the Western Cape in Stellenbosch, the other one in Tshwane in the province of Gauteng, and the other one in the Eastern Cape at the Walter Sisulu University. Originally, we intended to recapitalize 6 of our FET colleges. In fact, that has been extended. We actually have accomplished the mission in 12 colleges throughout the Republic. Excuse me. But clearly, before we could embark on any form of meaningful enterprise development program, it was very important for us to get a clear understanding of what we were dealing with and where we had strengths and where we had weaknesses. We started off by establishing a very sophisticated database of companies representing the tooling industry. And we also encouraged the commencement of pilot benchmarking studies. We used UNIDO with their United Nations program, which was specifically designed to identify companies which had a capability for assisting in governmental type projects. But more importantly, we formed a relationship with the Fraunhofer Institute in Aachen in Germany, and we invited them to assist us in undertaking a detailed exercise to establish exactly what our strengths and weaknesses are. Now, I'm just going to skip over some of the detail. I'd rather keep to the summaries. And to a large extent, they confirmed our own findings in that profits and turnover were far too low in South Africa. The use of technology was most certainly lacking. Now, I'm using the word use because they confirmed our own findings in so much as there's a full understanding of technology. But is it being applied effectively? No, it's not. Were we utilizing our equipment effectively in the various small companies? No, we were not. How well were our employees trained and qualified? Well, we found that we were seriously lacking in that regard. Were we using modern techniques in the application of tool-making processes, meaning a systematic, more productionized approach? No, we most certainly were not. We were lagging far behind our colleagues in the rest of the world. In fact, we determined that the old handcrafted approach to tool making, which was still prevalent, just had to be abandoned. We had to move forward. Now, as I said earlier, part of the mission was to establish cluster management structures in the provinces to make sure that we had an interchange between industry and government, but also including the other downstream role players that would have to be involved if this program was going to be meaningful. After all, as I said right at the beginning, the rehabilitation of the South African tooling industry is not for the benefit of the tooling industry itself, but rather for the benefit of manufacturing industry broad-based. To that end, our government had already accepted that it would be impossible to have an effective or successful manufacturing industry if we didn't have a vibrant and successful tooling industry to support it. So we established these cluster management projects in our principal provinces, Gauteng, KwaZulu-Natal, the Western Cape, where I'm from, the Eastern Cape. Port Elizabeth is the center there, and to a lesser extent, because they're not really industrial provinces, in Limpopo and in Mpumalanga. Now, as I said, I'd like to just spend a little bit of time on outlining the importance of getting the structures right, and giving you a clear understanding of why we had to have multiple entities engaged in this program. Now, if I can get the laser pointer, is that the red button? Now, right at the top, we have the TASA membership. Now, I repeatedly like to remind our members that they are in charge of the program. It is they who will vote the various officers executing the program into office. And every aspect of our program can actually be traced right back to the membership. So at a regional level, the TASA membership will elect their regional chairman and the executive who will look after their region. That regional chairman will then be appointed to the TASA main board. TASA is a registered company in its own right. Thereafter, the TASA board will appoint the directors of the NTIP and appoint its chairman and employ the chief executive officer. Now, this has become a critical part of the program because clearly, if we have what could amount to a rather bureaucratic structure, making sure that we're representative of the industry, it would also mean that we had to have a fast-moving and effective professional entity responsible for the execution of the program. So if we look at the NTIP, and we're fortunate today to have our Chief Executive Officer, Dirk van Dyk, with us, you'll note that it appoints its chairman from amongst the membership, but the membership doesn't necessarily elect him. So we look for the chairman as being the best of the best to come on board to manage the affairs of the NTIP, and then appoint a full-time professional to execute the program. That leaves politicians like myself to deal with the bureaucracy that exists that we can never escape on the other side. If we then look at a regional level at the tooling initiative, where we have to embrace our governmental partners, you'll note that the executive of TASA then joined the board of the tooling initiative, which will then invite downstream and public participation. Now, I'm going to explain that in more detail on another slide, but simply put, it means that the provincial government will sit with us on that board to ensure that our programs are tailor-made to the requirements of the project. And then moving on to a national level, we take the full-time chief executive officers of these regional tooling initiatives and place them onto the National Tooling Initiative Board along with the regional chairman to ensure that there is participation from industry and government at a national level so that we can debate and air out the various aspects of the program to make sure that they will in fact work. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the downstream participation also includes other role players, which obviously are going to be affected by the developing manufacturing sector. And they may, but they're not necessarily be restricted to, organized labor, the various governmental departments involved with labor issues, academia, the technical colleges, and of course we invite industry themselves to participate and give us input with regard to their needs. On a non-executive level, we also appoint a council of advisors where we might invite specific people. The difference being, these individuals are nominated by the organizations they represent. These individuals are targeted specifically for their wisdom, such that we can draw on their special expertise when negotiating or determining various aspects of the program as we roll them out. Now, the localization of the tooling companies is, excuse me, I've just got a little bit of a cough here. Localization of the tooling, of international tooling companies will depend on the incentives that we create in the various provinces, the manner in which we canvass their support internationally, or provide them insight into what is actually happening on the ground through feasibility studies, etc. We will offer them implementation assistance, and of course, we will guide them with regard to their full integration into the clusters that we're establishing throughout the country. Now, since 2006, we, industry and government, have invested approximately 180 million South African rands, or 18 million euro, into various aspects of the program. And we anticipate that by 2015, that investment will have exceeded 50 million euro. So I'd like to think we're taking this very seriously. As somebody who spent 35 years of my life in the tooling industry, I have to say it's high time that we're being recognized as being a critical part of the economy. Future plans, they're still being development, but we intend to encourage further development or further establishment of partnership with EU companies, joint ventures with EU companies. We want to encourage more investment into skills institution. We want to assist local companies for any company that wishes to participate to be subjected to a thorough and detailed benchmarking exercise, so that we can establish exactly where that assistance is required and bring them on board. And of course, we do intend to encourage the various linkages, such as the relationship that we've established with Aachen through the Fraunhofer industry, and any other effective institutions that we identify that can assist us with our endeavors. I thank you for the opportunity to give you a brief insight into our program, and I don't know whether anybody's got any quick questions now, or yes.
Sagadin Toolmakers Cluster of Slovenia. I found your presentation very, very interesting also for our activities in Slovenia. We have Slovenian industrial policy, which is more general, and these specific plans should still be prepared in the future. I have one general, one specific question. General is, how did you persuade ministries, government ministry to support this program? We are different, but and we would like to know, how you do it. And second is, what was the structure of this financing? What was the percentage of industry and what was the percentage of government? Thank you.
Okay, to answer the first part of that question is to emphasize the importance of linking the development of the tooling industry with the development of manufacturing industry, and at the same time retaining our own independence. We don't look for or encourage direct participation by government into industry, but we invite government to participate in vehicles that can assist in the development of industry. So we're keeping those two quite separately. I think we've also been relatively lucky because we have certain sections of our government who are very enlightened and committed to industrial growth and development. Okay. Your second part of your question?
Structure of funding, industry and state.
That's a little bit of a chicken and an egg. Our self-confessed aim is to make ourselves self-funding into the future. It would be naive to believe that industry will react quickly during the formation period. So it was critical that government actually provided, let's call it seed funding, to get our institutions off the ground. But we are now finding that as industry is reaping the rewards of the program and seeing the benefits, they're scrambling to become members of the Tooling Association. Now, let me explain to you. We define qualification for membership of the Tooling Association to be any company who's dependent on tooling for 30% of its income. Now, I would defy anybody to tell me or explain to me any manufacturing entity that doesn't qualify. So it's not only tool-making companies that we're asking to join our association. We're asking manufacturing companies to join us as well, because we've got a shared problem. Now, of course, as this program develops, the need for them to invest in the program is going to become more apparent. So the end game is, ultimately, industry takes over the funding responsibility for the development of manufacturing and our specific tool-making industry. But it's up the road. Okay.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to briefly carry on where Bob left off and try and explain to you in a little bit more detail the skills side of the program. But I want to start by actually answering part of the very last question that was asked about the funding. One of the key things we identified, as Bob has shown, is the skills problem. Where does our competitive skills and our future skills for the tooling sector come from? And we were successful in convincing government as the main responsible entity for skills development through the schooling and college and university system that they are responsible for the state of affairs of our skills environment. Therefore, the initial investment to get that program off the ground has to be their responsibility. And they agreed. So the bulk of the funding up to now, and it will be so up till 2015, is government-based funding to rebuild a completely new skills system, not just a qualification, but the complete system, as we proposed it to government. We called or branded our program for skills development as the TDM-powered program, so that there's an identity that will be recognized in the future around this specific program. And our sole objective of this program is to address what we call the skills gap. We believe, and this is very recent information that I got from one of the politicians, so it's not exact information, but it's ballpark Worldwide, everyone has got a youth unemployment problem, not a general unemployment, but a youth unemployment problem exacerbated by the recession from 2008. Ours is much worse than most countries in the sense that it's far in excess of 40%, and no one wants to say what it is, and there's a lot of political maneuvering of the numbers, but we believe that it's way in excess of 40%. But it's a systemic problem where Europe has got a temporary problem due to the recession. Ours is more a failure of the system. The system has gone into decline, and we have to rebuild the system. And the strategy of the EU to solve this is to invest in enterprises. Our program is to invest in enterprises, but it will be pointless to invest in the enterprises before we fix the system that's going to give us the skills to be deployed in those enterprises, especially the future skills. So we said we have to start back to the basics. Something is wrong if we have systemic high unemployment. If we look at the Deloitte's research last year, international research, that more than 10 million manufacturing jobs are not filled. How can that be? Everyone has unemployment. It means that the people that are developed by our systems does not meet the company requirements. But we are merely carrying on doing this. We said we have to stop and understand how can that be. Something must be done differently. So we went and said, let's relook at our customers. And industry is not our only customer. The young people, the career seekers, are most probably our more important customer when we're looking at skills development and a system that's going to put them in an opportunity to have a job in the future and a career path. But when we listened to the companies, they said, one of the future things we as small SME businesses are going to be demanding from a skill system is more ready, plug-and-play type employees. We don't have the time and the financial resources to invest in 3 or 4 and 5 year training programs where the full burden of that type of training is on the company and its internal resources, the machinery, the mentors, the staff of the company. Also, they're going to be looking at more multi-skilled staff in terms of all these new technologies, rapid prototyping, design, and high-tech machinery that's coming into play in the tooling sector. So it's all about higher level of skills and more project-based deployment of these type of skills. So as a company, I don't necessarily want to have very expensive designers and high-tech machining experts continuously on my books. I might do better if I have them available by project. And for that, we need to find a structural arrangement, either through clusters or so, to actually achieve that into the future. That was one of the things that we picked up from our stakeholders, certainly. On the other hand, the young people want guaranteed jobs. They want growth path, not the status quo of having to develop into management in order to advance their career path in a company because the technical advancement career path opportunities were not there. Faster training, more flexible, more modular, high technology exposure. All the young people are growing up in the IT environment. So we need to find ways to make the technical career path sexy for them again. And these two things place a very high demand on old type skill systems, the old apprenticeship type training systems that were hour-based and fairly long. So our solution approach was to say we must address industry and the career seekers' needs. We must align the education system. We must provide a way for young people to be able to continuously learn without getting stuck in a 4 or 5 year continuous program before they have value to industry. Modularization, improved pass rates, and one of the very important things is that skills in the technical field should not be left to government and to skills institutions. We in industry must take back the responsibility of leading those institutions in giving them the ingredients and the quality standards we want. So we set out to develop a structure where we started with entry-level skills. We have a systemic problem where weak maths and science is a barrier to good technical career paths and growth in this technical field, especially toolmaking. So we have to do some remedial work, and we developed a program for that. And then we broke it up into 3 distinct areas that would be producing our artisans, master artisans and technicians, and our engineering and design skills required for the tooling sector. We have a foundation program. We call it a pre-apprenticeship or foundation section that does some of the remedial work. And to attract the right people, we've developed some very powerful assessment methodologies in partnership with the USA in order to identify a student before we invest in him and putting him into this system. So it's not open at this stage for anyone to go and register for a toolmaking career. We make sure that you have the necessary ingredients to have a long-term career path in tooling. We've also structured it so that we utilize our full spectrum of existing skills provider facilities. Our technical colleges, our universities of technology, and our academic universities are partners in this venture, but with a difference. Whilst we're developing those qualifications and piloting them, we as the industry bodies of the National Tooling Initiative, Toolmaking Association, and its structures are in charge of those programs at these facilities. So we are making sure that the curriculum works, that the quality standard is good, and that the teaching capacity that we install there are up to our requirements. Then we cannot go back and say, we don't like what you're giving us. We're now responsible for making sure that that's going to come out of the system. So currently, that triangle is populated by a qualification that we call toolroom assistant. It's a 1-year program. We have an artisan qualification in toolmaking that's got 3 distinct levels. We teach as part of the normal toolmaking curriculum, very focused on machining, and then later the toolmaking trade theory in order to for metal stamping and plastics at this stage, and then the follow-on career path after some years in industry as a toolmaker. You can come back and do any one of the specialization routes for the various specialities in either casting and die casting, jigs and fixtures, specialized machine building up to plastics. And then you are able to build on this qualification further into the future with an technical engineering qualification. And there are entry routes also from the sides. If you are from an academic university with a mechanical engineering degree, you can enter from the side and specialize in tooling as a mechanical engineer or industrial engineer. So there are multiple entry and exit routes. Fairly big innovation part of what we've done in partnership with the USA is to find a parallel qualification so that we can benchmark ourselves continuously with the standard of our qualification meeting international standards, but also modularizing it, finding a way of breaking machining, for instance, up into modules that is certified by module. So that a young person busy with this, if you have achieved your, what we call your milling credentials, You can go and work in a factory as a milling machine operator or as a CNC machine operator, and later come back and add some of your other modules. So it's all competency-based. You do the theory, you write a theory test. You do the practical, you do a practical examination of your part, and if it passes, you get certified by the National Institute for Metalworking Skills in the USA for that component. And if you have all 50 components that make up the qualification, then you can write the final trade test and get your local South African qualification for whichever level you are completing, the engineering or the master artisan or the tooling qualification. Very similar to what was previously discussed in what the German dual system is doing. We're making sure that every stage of this program, every one of those credentials has at least 30% theoretical and subject matter in there, formalized practical training under supervision in a college or school environment, and then 40% time outside in industry, not in the college. Every stage, through every year that you might take to complete your qualification. So it's parallel accreditation, international, USA-based, and local, a trade certificate by the South African Qualifications Authority that certifies you competent as a toolmaker, a technician, a master artisan, or an engineer in tooling. We currently have 650 students on the pilot program. So another unique thing we did is, whilst we designed this, we said we will pilot it on a large scale across 6 provinces in the country, 12 institutions, to make sure we get it right. And that is also our initial pipeline that starts out the process. So not a small-scale pilot, and then we're successful, and then we another 5 or 8 years down the line, and only then start producing results. We're going to double that during the course of this year. We're going to add another 650, building up towards that pipeline of 3,600 by 2015 that we spoke about before. Very strong industry participation. We have more than 200 companies for 4 years in a row participating. Every year, every single one of our pilot students are placed for their 40% training at the company. And we rotate them through companies so that you don't go to the same company twice. You go to a plastics company, and then to a metal forming company, and then to a casting company, so that the young person can also identify where's their chosen path into the future during their training. We will later this year expand into add what we call 4 tooling centers of excellence, where we're putting some very advanced machinery and investment in excess of 6 million euro before the end of this year to equip 4 of these centers with the top-end machinery, multi-axis, CNC, laser cusing, and other type of tooling technologies, so that once we get to the higher end of the skills value chain on master artisan and engineering, that they are trained on the latest technologies that are available out there. So we're also networking our training institutions together. In 6 specific regions, we are putting up this center of excellence, but we're networking it to the university, to an Institute of Advanced Tooling, University of Technology, and a college, and our companies in that region that supports that facility. So the students inside there are getting their practical training in these companies. They're getting some of their basic level 1 training at the college, some of their theoretical training there, and some of their advanced academic training at the university in a network of facilities. As Bob mentioned, by the end of 2016, just the skills program of the National Tooling Initiative in South Africa would have invested 50 million euro in rebuilding that skill system. This is packaged in a way that it's a system that we can actually populate anywhere in the world. We've been asked by the American partners to look at Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates are looking for a solution. This is a completely packaged solution that we can share with our worldwide partners, smaller countries that don't have comprehensive skill systems for the tooling sector, for instance, and this can be shared fairly effectively and fast because of the lessons that we've learned in the process. The output capacity in the end would be per annum. Our target is to produce at least 400 highly qualified toolmaker artisans, 150 master artisans, and 50 toolmaking specialist engineers per annum from 2015 onwards, at an average cost per student per annum of between 20 and 25,000 euro, based on the length of those courses per annum. It's fairly expensive, but it's very high-level training that we are trying to give to these young people, and we've created the funding capacity to sustain this into the long term. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present our program. Any specific questions on the skills program? I'm sorry.
So any question? I think we got a very, very comprehensive presentation and with very challenging theme. Practically every state is supposed to have something like that to show you. From my point of view, just congratulations for that. Really.
Thank you very much.
It was a pleasure. We just would like to place you some information about the World Conference, ISTMA World Conference, which is taking place next year, 2014, in March, actually in South Africa. So Mr. Bob Williamson is taking a chance to call us and to call our members to join them and participate on the conference. I'm quite sure we will have outstanding organization and probably program which definitely will fulfill our expectations. So Bob, please motivate us.
Unashamedly, at the South African conference, we will be looking for any opportunities to engage in meaningful discussions with regard to any country wishing to acquire our TDM-powered training program. And you'll find there'll be a willing negotiator in our friend Dirk here. Where's the... We've been, again, very privileged to be asked to be the host for the ISTMA World Conference to be held in Cape Town from the 12th of March to the 16th of March next year. In case you're not aware of the geography of South Africa, I have a quick overview, and Cape Town is right down the bottom there. I can, without hesitation, emphasize the opportunities that will be exposed to you should you avail yourself of the opportunity to visit us. I might add, English is widely spoken. We've got 3 international airports in the country, so you don't have to fly directly into Cape Town. It's a wildlife paradise. We've got a very vibrant and growing economy. There's a unique blend between the first world and the third world. We're a democracy with a democratically elected government. There is total freedom of speech and press, and we have exceptionally sophisticated banking and commercial system. And in fact, I don't know whether most of you are aware, there's a debate as to which country had the first automatic tellers, and it depends on who you're talking to, whether it was actually Holland or South Africa. I would argue that it was South Africa, but some people say it was Holland. Cape Town itself is known to be a very beautiful city. and you can see a couple of coloured illustrations of what we have there. South Africa is also a top tourist attraction, and Cape Town sits on the top of the log. In fact, when it was put to us, would we be prepared to be hosts, we weren't given the option of which city would be used to hold the event. We were told quite bluntly, would you consider having the World Conference in South Africa in Cape Town? You can see here a couple of shots of what you can look forward to on the attraction side. And of course, there's plenty of leisure opportunities for you to partake when you might be there. Cape Town itself has got quite a few accolades, and it will in fact be the host for the World Design Capital for 2014. Cape Town Mountain itself has been listed as the one of the new seven wonders of the world. Cape Town has been nominated as the best city in Africa and Middle East, and as well as winning the prize for the best airport for 2012. We've got a world-class transport infrastructure, which was developed specifically for the World Cup, and I think that's a convenient time for me to address an issue which some people will say, you know, they hear that we have high levels of violence. Yes, we do. We have. It's a fact that we've got this blend of first and third world. But let me add and stress that we're the only country to have hosted the World Cup without one major instance of violence at all. And in Cape Town, we've just launched our new rapid transport system. We can nip over that, away from here. You have no problems in getting around the city. Accommodation, we're recommending 3 hotels to delegates, which you can see here. There's the Westin, which is for those who've got healthy budgets. The Cullinan, which is mid-range, it actually will be the recommended hotel. And the Southern Suns Hotel in the waterfront. All of these hotels are literally less than 5 minutes from the conference venue. Cape Town boasts a brand new world-class convention center, which has been purpose designed, and it might be of interest for you to note that the professional conference organizer who we've engaged to develop this conference was part of the design team that established this facility. And of course, we'd like to encourage you to bring your spouses with you, or your girlfriends, or whoever. Yeah, we won't go there. So we will have extensive accompanying parties program that you can avail yourself, and it won't be number specific, because what we've done is we've identified all of those programs which anybody can participate in. I'm going to skip over some of this. I'm just trying to whet your appetite a bit. But of course, it's not just a tourist venue. There's a serious side to this conference, and we want to not only play host to ISMA and its various mandatory sessions which it will have, but we want to also engage in meaningful debate regarding the development of our only too special tooling industry globally. So at 8 o'clock this morning, I'm proud to say to you that the ISMA 2014 World Conference site was officially opened, and through our various associations, we'll be distributing the banner that you saw just now which will have a hyperlink that will take you to a completely reactive website, which has already been populated, but will continually be populated in the coming months as we make subtle adjustments based on feedback. You've got, apart from the obvious welcoming literature, you've got details. If we could just go back to the menu there. You've got details of the program. If we can go back. Fee structure. Online requirements for registration. Details of the technical sessions, which will be the center of the conference. And also details of what we want to have running concurrently with the conference, which will be a jobs fair with the emphasis on skills development, as well as having a mini Afro-mold exhibition. We could just go back. No, to the menu. Sorry. Full details of the social functions, the accommodation available, and also the post-tour conferences that you might wish to participate in. It goes without saying, both myself, my colleague, and our various officers in South Africa will be available to provide guidance or more information on request. And no questions are too small. Thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you in Cape Town in March 2014. And those who are more energetic, please bear in mind that the week before the conference is the well-known Argus Cycle Tour, which is the largest time cycling event in the world. I think next year's event is looking at 38,000 riders participating around the peninsula. It's 107 kilometers. So it will prepare you nicely for the conference.
Okay. Thank you.